The reason most people feel stuck is not because they are trapped, but because they are thinking in circles laid down by other minds. Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right, yet getting nowhere? Like you're walking, but not moving. Thinking, but not deciding. Living, but not choosing. That sensation is not failure. It is the quiet weight of a mind trained to follow tracks instead of drawing maps. Most people are not stuck because they lack resources. They are stuck because they've unknowingly adopted a mental mold, a shape carved by society, repeated by culture, reinforced by fear. From childhood, we are taught how to think, what to value, and where to look for answers. But no one teaches us how to question the map we were handed, and so we follow it, faithfully, until the day comes when the map leads us nowhere, and we realize we've been walking in a circle all along. It's like living inside a glass box you cannot see. You can breathe, you can move, you can even decorate the walls, but you cannot break through because you've forgotten the box is there. And what builds that box? Repetition, comparison, the fear of standing alone, the belief that the path to success is narrow and only available to those who conform. Ask yourself, what beliefs do I hold that I've never questioned? Who planted those seeds in my mind, and why did I let them grow without asking what fruit they would bear? There's a story I once heard about a young man who spent years studying at the feet of wise teachers. He memorized principles, mastered systems, and spoke with confidence. But his life did not change. One day in frustration he cried out, "Why am I still stuck?" The answer came not from a teacher but from a gardener nearby. The tree cannot grow taller until you break the pot that holds its roots. The pot, my friend, is the rigid framework of your thinking, the shape of your assumptions, the limits of your imagination. And until you break that pot, even the richest soil and the brightest sun will not set you free. True transformation does not begin with a change in circumstance. It begins with a revolt against mental stagnation. It begins the moment you stop asking, "What should I do next?" and start asking, "Why do I believe this is the only way?" The mind, like a compass, must be calibrated. And if it always points to what is safe, predictable, or approved by the crowd, it may never lead you home. But there's something even more powerful behind that. A force we rarely notice because it hides in plain sight. There's a quiet truth most people never uncover. Most of what we believe we never chose. We borrowed it from parents, from schools, from television and books, from the whispers of the crowd. And like a hand-me-down coat, we put it on without ever checking if it fit. Then we spend our lives adjusting ourselves to match the shape of that coat, instead of tailoring a life to fit who we truly are. Have you ever stopped to think about where your deepest assumptions came from? Why do you define success the way you do? Why do you fear failure instead of curiosity? Why do you believe certain things are realistic while others are impossible? Who taught you those definitions? And were they even qualified to do so? You see, we are born with open minds, but over time those minds become cluttered with second-hand truths. And we confuse familiarity with fact. Just because an idea has been repeated often doesn't mean it's right. And just because a belief is shared by millions doesn't make it yours. There was once a man who lived his whole life believing he was incapable of speaking in public. He avoided every opportunity, saying, "I'm just not good at that." But when asked who told him that, he paused, and he couldn't remember. It turned out it was a single comment from a nervous teacher when he was 10 years old. One moment, one phrase became a chain around his confidence for decades. How many of those chains are you still wearing? Ideas inherited in silence, fears handed down like heirlooms, rules written by people who never lived your life. The truth is, you do not need to defend beliefs you did not choose. You have the right and the responsibility to examine them, to pull them out into the light and ask, does this serve me or stifle me? Is this my belief or just one I've been taught to repeat? Because the person you were meant to become cannot grow in the shadow of borrowed convictions. He must step into his own light. She must speak with her own voice. And that begins when you stop inheriting and start discovering. But even when someone begins to wake up to this, there is still a powerful illusion that keeps them from stepping off the well-worn path. It's not fear. It's something more deceptive. One of the greatest illusions in life is the idea that there is a safe way to live. A path so carefully paved, so widely traveled, that it promises protection from failure, embarrassment, or regret. But have you ever noticed how many people who chose that so-called safe path end up unfulfilled? We are taught quietly but constantly that success lies in conformity. Get the right job, follow the approved steps, don't make waves, don't stand out, play it safe, and yet The world's most vibrant lives were never lived safely. They were lived with conviction, with risk, with moments of uncertainty followed by acts of courage. The irony is this: the safe path is often the most dangerous of all, because it promises comfort but often delivers regret. It avoids failure but breeds dissatisfaction. It may keep you from falling, but it also keeps you from flying. Imagine a ship built with the finest craftsmanship, stocked with provisions, and crewed by the most capable hands. And then imagine that ship never leaving the harbor. Was it safe? Perhaps, but it failed its purpose entirely. You were not born to dock in safety. You were born to sail. The mind, when trained to seek security above all else, becomes timid. It chooses routine over exploration, approval over authenticity, and in doing so, it trades a life of wonder for one of quiet resignation. Have you ever asked yourself, what would I do if I were not afraid to lose? Or better yet, what have I already lost by trying so hard not to lose anything? You see, every time you choose comfort over courage, you reinforce the illusion. You tell your mind, risk is dangerous. But what if you reverse that? What if you began to believe stagnation is dangerous? That a life unlived is far riskier than a moment of failure? There is no path without cost, no route without obstacles. So if you must pay a price, why not pay it for something meaningful? Why not bet on your own voice, your own vision, instead of walking a road paved by someone else's fear? There's another key insight most people ignore. No, it's not just about avoiding the crowd, it's about learning to think against it. In a world where the majority is walking in one direction, it often takes great courage to step in the opposite. But have you ever stopped to think, what if the crowd is wrong? Contrarian thinking is not about rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's not about rejecting wisdom or dismissing convention simply because it's popular. Rather, it is about learning to question the unquestioned, to examine what is accepted as truth and see if it truly holds up to your own scrutiny. The crowd, by its nature, moves in one direction, and that direction is often guided by inertia. It is shaped by habits, by societal expectations, by the comfort of doing what has always been done. But just because a belief is popular doesn't make it wise. Just because a practice is common doesn't make it correct. The crowd, as a whole, cannot know your purpose, your potential, your vision. It is, after all, just a mass of individuals who, too, are following patterns, often without even realizing it. Consider the story of a man who, during a time of great scarcity, took a chance on a new business idea. He was laughed at, ridiculed. Why would you risk everything, they said. Why go against what everyone else is doing? But he trusted his instincts. He took that step of faith, and years later he became one of the world's most respected entrepreneurs. The difference between his success and the failure of others wasn't the brilliance of his idea. It was his willingness to question the status quo. Have you ever wondered how many opportunities you've passed by simply because everyone else was doing something else? How many doors remained closed to you because you didn't even try to turn the handle? Contrarian thinking isn't just about ideas, it's about approach. It's about looking at every decision as an opportunity to break free from the mental chains that bind you. It's about asking, is there another way to look at this? What if the accepted answer is not the right one for me? The greatest breakthroughs, the most profound shifts in history, have always come from those who dared to swim upstream. While the world says, follow this path, the contrarian asks, what if there's a better way? While everyone is settling for what is, the contrarian wonders, what could be? But the beauty of contrarian thinking lies not in what you think differently, but in the simple fact that you are thinking at all. When you choose to think for yourself, rather than to simply adopt the thoughts of others, you step into a place of true power. You begin to see the world with fresh eyes, and that's when real transformation begins. But this kind of thinking requires more than just courage. It demands something deeper, a shift in how we view our own limitations. And that brings us to the next truth, one that most people overlook. There's a moment in every life when a person begins to question themselves. They feel slow, confused, grounded, and the natural response is this: something must be wrong with me. But what if the issue isn't your wings? It's the air you're trying to fly in. Birds don't struggle because they lack the ability to soar. They struggle when the air around them is thick with storms, polluted by noise, or lacking the currents they were meant to ride. And so it is with the human mind. Most people try to fix themselves, when what they really need is to change their environment. Think about it. You place a powerful seed in the wrong soil, and it will never grow. Not because it was weak, but because it was surrounded by the wrong conditions. The same applies to your mind, your ideas, your energy. If you surround yourself with noise, comparison, fear, and conformity, how can you expect clarity or boldness? Have you ever considered that maybe you are not the problem? Maybe your environment is dulling your vision, draining your strength, stifling your hope? So many bright, capable, gifted people walk through life with slumped shoulders and dimmed eyes, not because they lack potential, but because they are suffocating in air that was never meant to carry their kind of flight. The answer is not to trade your wings for better ones. It is to seek higher air. Air made of silence, of deep thought, of inspiring voices, of solitude, honesty, and challenge. Some environments shrink you, others stretch you, some voices confuse you, others call you home, and you can always tell which one you're in, because the right environment doesn't make you someone else. It makes you more fully yourself. If there's one thought I'd leave with you today, it's this. You were never stuck. No, you were simply breathing in the wrong atmosphere. Change that, and you will rise.